Hi everybody, Tom Neely here. Just want to make a quick video showing how we're going to use Ansible to bootstrap 12 compute nodes, actually 11 compute nodes. Um, so Zach McClure and Chad Whippo have worked pretty hard, and they've gotten, along with some help from some of the fellows down at CTM, they've dragged down 15 servers out of the rack that Yahoo donated down to the Snap Lab. They got them all racked up. They have them all networked and ready to go. So I guess by ready to go, at this point, what I mean is they have, again, racked the host, cabled up all the networking. Um, Zach and I set up a Pixie Boot server about a week ago. So I think imaging the host was pretty easy. So basically, they just flip the host on, boot to the NIC, and away they went. So we only have one image on the network, and that's a CentOS 7 minimal install image. So that's the base image that basically every host on our OpenStack in our OpenStack cluster is going to be. So yep, so they just pixie booted the hosts, and I had them log into all the hosts, set the IP address, get them networked, make sure everything's talking, and then the last thing is push all the keys from the root account out to all of the compute nodes. So, and the reason for that is because, again, we're going to use a program called Ansible, and Ansible is. Let me tell you a little bit about Ansible real quick. So it's an awesome configuration management, configuration deployment tool. It was recently acquired by Red Hat, and which is kind of exciting because if Red Hat bought them, that means that Red Hat is going to really start pushing Ansible for like its certifications and stuff. So it's kind of a cool thing to know. And really, it's a very, very simple tool. So Ansible, and let me spell it for you. It's just Ansible. So you can go check out their website and you can see some of the stuff that it can do. Of course, there's like a paid service and everything, but to get started with it, it is very, very easy. You basically just do a yum install Ansible. You just have to configure the Ansible configuration file, which is located at etc Ansible config, and it looks like a lot more than what it is. To get everything going is very, very simple. And then all it really needs is a host file, and so let's take a look at that real quick. So in etc Ansible host, we can see that we have one test group, two, and three test groups. I'm sorry, not test groups, but three host groups. So our first host group is test, and I just threw this IP address in there. This is one of our compute nodes. I wanted to do a run on one host with the Ansible playbook before going out to the other 10. So basically, if I break something, I wasn't going to break it too bad. I can only break one, and then maybe break another one. But luckily, everything seemed to go really well. So our next host group is compute, and these are all of our compute nodes that we have set up so far. And you can see I have a few of these with the hashes in front of them, and those are commented out because we're still in the process, and by we I mean Zach and Chad, because I am not on site, but these guys are in the process of getting a couple things worked out with these hosts, but all the other ones are ready to go. And this VM host group, these don't actually exist anymore, so I could just very easily delete those, but I'm lazy, so no big deal. So you've probably heard me talk about playbooks. That's what Ansible is designed around, what we call playbooks, and a playbook is just a configuration file that's written in YAML. So let's take a look at one real quick. So I made a playbook called compute, and it's just a .yaml file, and YAML is yet another markup language. So let's cat that out and take a look. So you can see my top line here. These are just my comments, so compute node install playbook, and we going down through. And so if you're not familiar with YAML, it's pretty simple. It's basically it kind of takes like some qualities from Python in the sense where like indentation matters, and it's just a key value markup language. So we can see that we just basically have a lot of keys and values. So our host is compute, and again, this is up here. This is basically telling this playbook that we want to execute this playbook on this group of hosts, minus the ones that I have commented out, of course. So remote user, this basically says that we're going to run as a remote user. Become, yes, we're going to become the root user. Become method is sudo, which is saying that we want to run all these commands with elevated access. Connection is SSH, which is how we're connecting to all the hosts. Gather facts is yes, that's gather information about the host. So now we can see the task list, and this is the jobs that are actually being executed on all of the compute nodes. And so we can see we have our name, key, and you can see that the first value is just download git. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to download git, and we're going to do that using the yum module. And so you can see that right here. So the yum module says name is git and state is latest. So all this is saying is these 4 lines are just saying use the yum module to download the latest version of the git package. So pretty simple. The next one is clone CIST OpenStack, and so now we're going to use the Git module, and we're going to use the repo. This is our Git repo, and for anybody who is interested to see like some of the stuff that we're doing with OpenStack, we save a lot of the configurations here, some of the scripts. We have our backup scripts going there. Just different things that we're kind of throwing in there, trying to keep track of everything and keep everything organized. So we're putting a lot of our configurations and stuff in there. So of course that's where our Bootstrap script is going to live. But anyways, so Git, we're saying clone this repo to this destination. So it's going to clone it to the root OpenStack folder. So clone yes, update yes, and force yes. So clone, well, yes, of course we're going to clone it. There's other things that you can do, but this is what we're doing. Update, yes. So basically, this is saying if the server already has this repository on it, do a git pull to freshen its contents and make sure that everything is current. And also force, yes. Notice that the git module doesn't seem to work too well unless you put force yes, so I just included it. The next module is the script module. The name is execute compute prep.sh. This is our Bootstrap script that's going to go through and download everything for us. And we're going to need to reboot the host, but I'm actually going to hold off on that so you can see that I have these commented out with the 2 hashes here. And of course the script could just reboot the host at the end, but I'm just trying to get more familiar with the Ansible modules and stuff, so I decided to use the command module, and this is just to run an arbitrary command on the host. So basically just feeding it shutdown -r, which is reboot, and +1 means in 1 minute. So if this were uncommented, then it would tell all the hosts shut down after 1 minute, reboot, and then come back up. So that's really about it. So let's go ahead and give this a whirl. Let's see if this works. But actually, the first thing I want to do is I want to just run one arbitrary command to just make sure that Ansible is jiving good with all the compute nodes that we do have in the, again, in the compute list. Okay, so let's just do Ansible compute. This is telling me which host group to work with, -a for arbitrary command, and I'm just going to echo hi there. So let's let this run, and it looks like success, boom, 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 all the way down the list. Everything was good. So RC is our return code. Return code 0 means that everything executed as it was meant to. So I think we are good to go. So I'm just going to take one last look and make sure that everything is in order here. So our host, we're targeting the right group, and I'm not going to reboot. I can actually just run an arbitrary command just like this one, and I can just say shutdown -r +1, so if I wanted to. Also, if you want to look at our compute prep.sh script, it's on GitHub, and really there's just absolutely nothing fancy to it at all. This is not the prettiest thing, but it's just saying that since the hosts already have IP addresses and we know exactly which host names to give them, it's just saying, oh, look at my IP address. If it's this, name it that. So there's probably prettier ways to do this, but this was by far the quickest and easiest. And I really just did not want to spend any more time on this than we had to. So down here, it's just doing a bunch of yum installs. So it's going to install the Apple release. It's going to install just some very common programs. It's going to run out and get the CentOS release OpenStack Liberty. And it's actually, look at the script, it's telling it to download Git, even though I did, but that's okay. It's going to see that it's already installed. Because I use this script not always in the sense that we're using it right now. Tiger VNC and Tiger VNC Server probably don't even need those packages, but you know what? They're like kilobytes in size, so that's okay. And we're not going to configure the services anyways. This is kind of a generic script that I've used over and over and over again for bootstrapping compute nodes. So group install, this is one of the bigger ones here. This is going to get us all of our virtualization tools and everything. And for those who don't really know about OpenStack, compute nodes are basically just glorified hypervisors. And really, I don't even know why I said glorified. There's really nothing wow, that's not even a word. There's really nothing too special about them. They're just running KVM in the background, and they just gel well with OpenStack. The controller node launches virtual machines on them from the dashboard and everything. So this is where, yeah, the compute nodes, this is where all of our resources come from. This is where all of the virtual machines are going to live. So down here, system control, we're just going to start and enable cronid. This is the network time protocol that's most used with CentOS 7. We're going to stop and disable the network manager. We do not need this. And we're going to stop and disable firewall D, which we also do not need because OpenStack has its own firewall. So we do not need to use like the Linux native firewall D commands or services. Down here, we're just going to make a couple changes to some configuration files. This is just for mainly SSH access for the first two. Again, not really even needed in this case, but you know, whatever. I can actually, you know what, I'm just going to delete those, no big deal. And right here, we're just going to turn off SE Linux because OpenStack really doesn't like SE Linux. I'm hoping in future releases it's not an issue because best practice is to keep SE Linux on. And also, speaking of best practices, it is not probably the wisest thing to do to use the root account for Ansible, but that's okay. Again, I just wanted to get these guys, you know, just install the OS, get the keys pushed out, and get them on the network and everything, so we can actually use Ansible in the future. I can actually do it right now to go ahead and just create a dedicated user account for that. But you know what? I'm just going to roll with this right now, and we'll worry about this other stuff later. So go ahead and clear the screen here. Run an ls, and I think it's time. Let's go ahead and execute this playbook. So we're just going to do an Ansible -playbook compute.yaml. So I'm just saying Ansible. I want to run it in playbook mode, and I'm going to target this playbook. And that's it. Everything else, it's going to know what to do. So let's just cross our fingers and hope that everything goes to plan. So task setup, so you can see that it just went out. It, you know, talked to all the hosts, so that's a good thing. So right now, it's actually doing the download Git part of the playbook. And so we can see all these changed. That's good. That's basically saying that Git was downloaded. The change was made, and nothing's read yet, so that means that it went the way it was supposed to. So now we can see that it successfully cloned our Git repository, which is awesome. And now it's going to execute computeprep.sh. So that's the script that I was just showing you. And if this executes properly, then it's probably going to take a little bit of time here. Now you notice it went really quick on 131. That's because I actually already ran this on 131, but I did uninstall a couple of packages. So yeah, we're installing quite a bit of stuff, so it's going to take, you know, a little bit of time. This is actually a good sign that it's taking some time, because if it just cruised through the whole host list like super quick, that's a pretty good sign that things did not install the way they needed to. So this makes me happy that it's actually taken a little bit of time. So I'm just going to chill out here and let this finish. So this was gonna, probably take a good 4 or 5 minutes to install all those packages, especially the virtualization group packages. There's a little bit to those, and it is also doing a yum upgrade on all the hosts as well. So that's going to take some time because this is a bare CentOS image. These packages, they get outdated rather quickly. So when it comes to updating, it does take a little bit of time, and you know what? I'm just